Welcome in again, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the R&D Sports Report. My name is Dishmond, and I'm joined this evening, as always, by Rylee. Rylee, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing great, bro.
So, I think one of the easiest places to start, obviously, is the NBA playoffs.
Ooh.
But...
Oh, I don't like... No. I wasn't getting it wrong.
But I think there's a more pressing topic, and it involves the first pitch at a baseball game.
Yes.
I sent this video to you earlier of 50 Cent throwing out his first pitch, right?
Oh, Lord.
And then today we have another person that is entering the conversation for the worst first pitch ever thrown. And that man would be the, I don't know if you call him the star, maybe co-host, co-anchor, right, of America Ninja Warrior. It was just so bad.
Yup.
I sent it to you.
Yeah, and then I question why. Why are you like this?
And so we have Akbar. I'm really not going to try to pronounce his last name because I don't want to butcher it for him. He did enough butchering for himself today when he threw out that first pitch.
Yep.
If you don't know what we are talking about, the MLB on their Twitter today said who did it better, and it's Akbar or 50 Cent. And the interesting thing here, I think, is that they're both lefties.
They are? I thought 50 Cent was right.
No, he threw it out lefty.
Oh.
If you remember the video, he throws it southpaw.
True.
So the question is, whose first pitch goes down in history as the worst first pitch ever?
Okay. Here's my answer, okay? And I'm probably going to go into detail because that's just how I am. Okay, first off, I'm going to say 50 Cent, dude. See, the problem is 50 Cent, he threw it, right? But he didn't even throw it close to the catcher. No, he, threw it, way west, dude. Like, if you're standing there, you got north, south, east, west. He threw it way west, dude. Way over there. To the left. Anyways, if you look at, what's his name?
Akbar,
right? He throws it. It hits the ground, but it's just slightly off of the catcher.
Slightly off? The only reason it's slightly off is the ground helped him correct it.
True.
You look at how far he throws that ball, and let's see. Let me pull it up again. Let's try to get here we go.
Ooh.
Okay, so he ends 10 feet short of. No, go away. He ends 10 feet short of even the grass edge. He doesn't even make it to the grass's edge.
True. But here's the thing. It's he was 10 feet off. 50 Cent was 50 feet off.
Yeah, wow.
That was so good. I'm gonna applaud myself there because that was just awesome. That deserves a 5-star. I'm just throwing it out there. Anyways, I think 50 Cent. I like it. I like his music, but his throwing game is complete garbage.
So maybe there's something here though with both of these men are lefties. Is there something with the left-handed first pitch? Right? Do you think there's any... I mean, clearly they both struggled mightily. I think the problem for Akbar is he looks like he's trying to plow it. He's trying to hurl that thing in there.
Yeah, he is.
and he just drops it short. Like 50 doesn't look like he's quite.
He like tossed it.
Well, he somewhat tossed it, but he's not like he's trying to lob it in, which probably makes it a little worse because he's trying to just lob it in there.
True.
But Akbar was like trying to hurl that thing, and I think this is a note for all celebrities. Just lob it in there. Just get it to home plate.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like just get it there. You don't want to end up with these guys. I kind of lean more toward the 50 Cent side just because no, being worse.
Oh, okay.
Because
I was like, what?
He's like he doesn't seem to be trying as hard as Akbar was trying to throw that. True. And I can understand that trying to throw it, that hard, something you're not used to, like it just goes, 10 feet in front of you and lands, which is embarrassing nonetheless. But at least he was trying to put the effort in to throw the ball hard enough to make it there. Like 50's just, I don't know, it goes into the dugout almost. It's so off.
Mm-hmm. So, I think we have come to agreement that 50 Cent is 50 trash. I'm sorry. Man, these 50 Cent jokes, I gotta chill. Anyways.
I wouldn't give you 50 cents for them.
I'm done, dude. No. They're gonna like turn the podcast off and like.
Well, I mean, if they made it through your first 50 Cent joke, then they've made it this far. They can like endure that corny joke.
That, or they can like embrace it and be like, "We're right there for you, brothers," or they just threw their phone out the window and now we're talking on the road.
Well, that may be the case, but nonetheless, if we are on the road, hello, road. Nice to meet you.
Hi. Why is there a dead animal next to us?
I don't know. But anyway, getting now back on track after we so easily always get off. And as we hear the sounds of the dog running around us. 50 Cent, I think, just makes it worse because he didn't seem to be trying that hard.
Agreed.
But let's move on from this because I think we've spent enough time talking about MLB first pitches. Although we've been talking about it as long as the normal ceremonies for those things actually take, so I guess it's fitting in that way. But before we get into the NBA playoffs and the Western and Eastern Conference matchups, Eastern, yes, Eastern Conference. Bet you didn't know that was the name of the conference.
No way. Dude, man, freaking bone.
But I think we need to start here with, is there trouble within the Spurs organization?
Yes. I feel a lot of it is unfairness. A lot of it I sometimes feel is selfish, if that makes sense. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I think like Popovich, he's a great guy. I like him as a coach. I think he's a great coach. But I sometimes feel that he can be selfish with his players and his staff.
I don't think it's more so much selfishness. It's I know how I want it done, and that's the way we need to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
So, for any of you that don't know what we're talking about, right? Reports have come out that a lot of NBA execs have said that this Kawhi relationship is irreparable, can't be fixed, and that they don't look for him to be with the Spurs next year. So let's start there. Is Kawhi opening day on the Spurs roster?
So pretty much what you just asked is he going to be on their roster?
Opening day.
Right.
Right, because...
No.
Well, I say this because last summer, right, the question was, will Kyrie Irving be on the Cavs opening day roster? And the answer was no. So will Kawhi be with the Spurs when the season starts again?
No, I don't think so, because media has made so many big things out of such little things that have come out of the Spurs. For instance, Greg Popovich saying something about Kawhi being injured / faking it, and also, what am I thinking of? Either way, I just feel that since so many little things like that can be blown up in media, I feel that Kawhi is wanting a fresh start, and I think he won't be on the Spurs next year just because I feel he wants to get away from the drama and most importantly, just a new team. He wants to be a new team, new scene of, imagery. He just wants to be, out there. He doesn't want to be on the Spurs anymore. At least that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, here's my thought on it. It wouldn't surprise me if opening day he is on that roster but doesn't make it past the trade deadline. The problem that the Spurs are going to have is they're not going to get back enough talent for him that makes him feel it's okay to part with him. Right? Because, again, according to multiple reports, that this happened last year with LaMarcus Aldridge. According to these reports, LaMarcus Aldridge reached out to Damian Lillard and wanted him to talk to the GM about getting him back on the Trailblazers. And then Popovich comes in, talks to him, smooths the situation over, and he actually has a pretty good year. Now, if the Spurs, decide they're going to trade Kawhi, maybe they say, okay, well, let's trade LaMarcus as well. Let's start fresh. I don't think they're going to do that, though. I'd say if you were putting percentages on if Kawhi is there opening day, I'd say maybe 70-30. Because I would be surprised if he gets dealt at the draft.
Really?
I think I'm saying because if Kawhi gets dealt at the draft, I'd be surprised because I think if he would be dealt, it wouldn't be till late summer, right before maybe training camp starts or something like that, kind of like Kyrie was. Later in the summer when you finally can get that deal done after the draft. So you don't really see a whole lot of superstars that are traded on draft night. The other thing is, maybe he does want to be in San Antonio, but he wants it to be his team, right? He wants to be the man. And that's not quite how San Antonio's really operated, right? You had David Robinson there, then you had Tim Duncan, and yeah, the Admiral was the man, so to speak, but there are different types of players because, when he retired, when the Admiral retired, then Tim Duncan kind of took over as the man. But while you had Tim Duncan there, you still had Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker. So, although Duncan was kind of the face, he had supporting cast there as well that almost not necessarily wouldn't allow him, but also didn't make him the face. We look at the Cavaliers, right? The face is LeBron James.
Oh, definitely.
You look at the Celtics, the person that you might call the face is Kyrie Irving, but you also have Gordon Hayward and Al Horford, so you can't, he's not the man, And so maybe Kyrie wants a situation like that. I don't know. This is all pure speculation. You see, reports that Boston might want him. I don't think Boston lets go of anybody. Why would you let go of Terry Rozier and Jason Tatum as they've been tearing it up in the playoffs? Right? So, I wouldn't be surprised opening day he's on that roster and then maybe gets dealt before the trade deadline. Somewhat like a DeMarcus Cousins, maybe. So, it just seems like something all of a sudden is kind of funky there in San Antonio.
Well, and I feel that if Kawhi leaves, they will. Even the Spurs will have kind of a fresh start. Um, like you said, 7:30. I think I do think that he will be there. I'm just saying that but before you said any of the details, I thought that he would stay there or not that he would stay there, but he would get traded for, heck, I don't know. But there's so many places that are on the map for him, and there's so much talk around him.
But the thing is, he's not going to want to go to just some junk team like the Orlando Magic. Just because they can maybe provide assets to the Spurs.
Right.
If he's going to go anywhere, I bet he's wanting to go to a contender, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Question is where, though? I mean...
But see, we had this issue with LaMarcus Aldridge last year. Right? Popovich told him, look, I'm not going to get anybody back good enough for me to let you go. So you're probably not going to get anybody back good enough to let Kawhi go. He is under contract, and so he's got, one more year on his contract, I think. He becomes a free agent next year. So the more I kind of talk this out, I think the Spurs will try to smooth things over, maybe till like the trade deadline, try to get some assets for him. Somewhat similar to, right, the way Indiana did it, right? The way the Pacers did it. By trading Paul George, they got assets like a Victor Oladipo that just shined this year. And, who knows where Paul George is going to go. You've seen people be like, oh, well, maybe come back to Indiana. Not going to happen.
Well, I don't know if you saw, speaking of Indiana, the general manager said that, since PG hasn't been there, he's been different. He's shot different, he's played different. And he said, pretty much we would need to have him here to see how he plays, to see if he'd fit our new team.
Well, I mean, not only that, though, but like...
That's just what
Did you see, said. I think, what is his Instagram post the other day, I think it was?
Who, his?
Yeah.
Oh.
He, I didn't see his exact, I saw somebody where they had, like, taken a screenshot of it. But he had his knee scoped out the other day.
Oh, yeah.
So he had it cleaned out, and it's like, is this going to be an issue in the future? Are your knees going to be able to hold up, right? We already know he had that gruesome injury to his ankle and lower leg there, so what's to say the rest of his leg's not weak now?
That is true. I mean, it's the same situation with DeMarcus. So I mean, not as bad as DeMarcus, but close.
Well, I mean, Paul George's injury, I think, was worse, especially worse looking, just the way it happened. But like, DeMarcus, we've seen that these top athletes like Kobe can come back from a ruptured Achilles. It's all in the work you put in, though, prior to that.
I would agree. It's really all about the test in the end and how people see you and how you play and pretty much how you show what you can do. I hope that DeMarcus comes back to New Orleans and destroys. Paul George, I don't really know. As a Thunder fan, I'd like to see him come back, but I don't really know. Him coming off that injury, I'm not too sure. But then again, like I just said, I think if you come back and show how good you are, even better than before, that really blinds out the injury for people.
Well, and I don't know if it's... Maybe he wasn't so much an injury as just kind of cleaning it all up in there. But at the same time, right, you start to get a little concerned with that.
Right, suspicious, yeah.
Like, I know there are players that have their knees scoped all the time. But you get a little leery because he also didn't play quite the same way he did, as you noted earlier, in Indiana. Right? This season for him was so up and down. Now, I'll give you this question. Is it time for maybe the Thunder to move on from Russell Westbrook and try to get like a Paul George and try to trade Russ?
Oh, dude, I've been fighting that question in my head for a while, and I've thought of multiple answers. Part of me says that I think they should let go of Russ and start over, start fresh, and get someone like Paul George and keep, Carmelo.
Don't keep Carmelo. Get rid of him too.
Well, I'm saying keep Carmelo for trade, a trade asset.
Who's going to want to trade for a broken down Carmelo Anthony though?
Porzingis.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Like Melo, once Porzingis got to New York, wasn't the Melo of old. He wasn't the Melo of old in OKC, obviously. So he's almost looked at as damaged goods.
True. By the way, I totally forgot about Porzingis. I'm surprised I even mentioned his name.
Well,
since he's injured,
I was gonna say, he had an ACL tear.
Yes, which I'm really excited to see him come back this year or next year. Sorry, but anyways, I think Russ has been so loyal to the team and to the what's the word I'm looking for? Not company.
Organization.
Thank you. And I feel that we would be kind of, sort of betraying him. And I don't really want to do that. But at the same time, I feel that he's trying to do it all by himself. And I
think that in lies the problem, is that he's trying to do it all by himself.
Well, and I feel like he's sort of used to it, though. Like, okay, Paul George came this year. Even Carmelo, two big stars. Well, not really Carmelo, but you get the point. Two big stars. And, they come in and Russ is like, okay, hold up. Now I gotta sync with these guys, But you're not used to having stars on your team. Ever since KD left, he had to fight for like 2 years.
Yeah, but, here's also the other thing. When KD left, then Russ all of a sudden started shining, right? Because he could just take over the team. And I understand what you're saying, getting used to them. But at the same time, how can you not try to be with them, try to get used to where they are? And you would have thought by the end of the season we would have seen a different OKC team. And I just think we saw Russ-centered basketball. At the same time, you're not used to having them, but don't you think that would make you more willing to pass the ball or try to help yourself out by using those two assets you have?
I agree with you. I think most OKC fans can really agree with me on the whole Russ situation. It's just the problem is he's so. Look, I think Russ is a great guy, but I feel like he's a little bit too self-centered, and I feel like he's just trying to do too much. He needs to just let others handle the ball. For example, that it was a couple of episodes I explained. Russ got 45 points. PG got 5, and then Carmelo got 4. That explains. I feel like just that right there can explain. How Russ really is. Again, part of me, I think we should get rid of him, trade him for something bigger, something better.
Well, you're not necessarily going to get better.
True.
But, you also have to look at Victor Oladipo playing in Indiana this year. Right? Dude was almost non-existent for the Thunder last year. And then all of a sudden is like a mega star in that Cavs-Pacers series. Because he was able to play differently, because he was able to kind of be the man, so to speak, and he didn't have Russ trying to dominate the ball.
I would agree. I just don't know any other point guards right now in the league that I'd rather have than Russ. Damian Lillard. I would totally take Damian over him. I know that's a huge stretch.
Well, it is. But, like, the thing is, maybe is it addition by subtraction? You get rid of Russ, you get rid of that headache or distraction, and maybe you don't get as good of a point guard, but at the same time, you've freed yourself up for a better overall team.
Yeah, that is true. I'd rather take the worst point guard, and still have a better team. Not only that, but like Russ, he's packed with money. So, Damian gets paid a lot, but I don't think he gets paid as much. So we might have a little bit more money to get more assets out of, for instance, even Paul George or Carmelo. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Carmelo, because since he is complete trash right now, I don't know who would want him. The Hornets? Maybe.
Well, and I think that's the thing is, like, for Carmelo, as I said earlier, he's pretty much damaged goods. Paul George is still, I think, highly sought after. And I think that, he will have, obviously, a lot of bidders on the free agent market. But, does he have as many as he would have if, like, Klay Thompson and Kawhi Leonard don't come up for free agency next year? Some teams may be just kind of holding serve until, the 2019 free agency class. So, I don't know. I don't think OKC will do anything with Russ, but I think it's just a good question to kind of look at and say, well, maybe they not necessarily would be better, but maybe better off not having that in your locker room, right? Or that on the court with you.
I'm a huge Russ fan, so to be honest, I don't really want to lose him, but for the sake of the team, I'd be willing to drop him. I think he's loyal. I'm loyal to him. Wherever he goes, I'm still going to root for him. But, it all should wrap up in the end. I think it should all be planned out. Not only that, but I think he did recently just sign a 4-year contract. So, we shall see where it goes.
Well, but let's be honest. Signing that 4-year contract doesn't really mean a whole lot. I know what you're saying.
I was just throwing it out there.
But, I guess it's time for us to kind of dive into the playoffs a bit here.
Ooh.
And
oh no! Don't do the side, bro. No.
Well,
What'd you like?
What?
I'm interested in seeing what you're disappointed in.
I guess the fact that we could predict these matchups at the beginning of the season. Everybody thought it'd be Rockets, Golden State.
Well, that was pretty obvious.
Cavs, Celtics.
Really? I like it was between the two, Celtics or the Sixers, which.
Well, I agree with you, but at the same time, when the Celtics were kind of picked, they had Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, right? Not knowing that they'd both go down. And I think the Sixers were like that sexy dark horse pick, but you always thought it was Celtics, Cavs for the Eastern Conference. Like that's what I'm disappointed in, is the fact that it's kind of boring. Like there's no surprise team.
I could totally agree with you on that 100%. I was about to say the same thing, but you pretty much stole the words out of my mouth. I think that with these matchups, of course, they are still good matchups, but I'd rather see like Indiana versus I'm trying to think of a team. Who did Golden State face? New Orleans. Like, I'm just saying, like something easy as that. Like that'd be cool. Pacers versus New Orleans.
See, it would be cool for that to be a finals, but at the same time, like these are the matchups that the television networks wanted, obviously.
Well, yeah, because of views and all that.
So, I guess the next question is, who do you think wins the Rockets Warriors series?
I knew this question was going to come, and I wasn't really ready to answer it, to be honest. I think that Golden State has, of course, it's the same roster, same great roster. It's pretty much the same talk every time. But sometimes with the other team, you can mix it up a little. We all saw this matchup coming. Even the NBA saw it coming, I think it's going to be Golden State, sadly, and I think it's going to be the Cavs once again. I can't tell you how surprised I'd be if Boston won, dude. Of course I'd be stoked, but I don't really have a winning team in this. I don't have anybody that I'm choosing.
You don't have a rooting interest.
Right. If I rooted for the Eastern Conference, it'd be Celtics, I guess, because I don't want the Cavs in there again. If I said Western, I'm going to say Rockets just because I don't want to see Golden State in there. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the Beard, I think, of course, that'd be a good matchup. I think the Warriors are going to win, and I think, if we're going over the Cavs, I think the Cavs are going to win. But again, I'd be really surprised if both of those teams climbed over the last champions and go to the finals together.
Well, I think the biggest question in these two matchups is for Houston, can you offensively keep up with Golden State, right? We know James Harden can score, but can the rest of that offense keep up? And then for Boston, I think is how well can you contain LeBron? We saw, the Raptors had issues containing him, which then led to issues containing Kevin Love and Kyle Korver. So, I agree with your point there that it looks like it's another Cavs-Warriors matchup. And if that happens, the Warriors will win again.
Sadly.
But, I don't think we can completely count Boston out.
No, I'm not going to.
With the way they've been playing. Terry Rozier's been playing out of his mind, been playing the best of his career. Jason Tatum's coming on strong at the end of the year for being a rookie. So, there's a lot going there for the Celtics. I still think, and I forgot to ask you this, but I think Cavs win in 7. I think it goes 7 games in the Eastern Conference.
Really? I'm going to agree with you. I think it will go all the way. I think that, you were talking about LeBron James and how you're going to contain him. And pretty much the same thing was asked to Jason Tatum. I don't know if you saw his quote or not, but he was like, it's my rookie year. What do you expect me to say? He's LeBron James, the best player in the league. I'm gonna try my best, but I don't know what else to tell you. It's my first year. I'm trying, and I don't blame him. I don't know how you're supposed to be in your first year and contain LeBron James. Come on now, it's LeBron James. How are you gonna be new? New around here, not really know how he plays, and not be able to guard him. I think it will be an interesting matchup, and to be honest, I can't wait to watch this Celtics Cavs series. Not really excited, but I think it should be really interesting.
I find it more interesting, the Celtics Cavs series, than I find the Rockets Golden State series.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Only for the fact that we've seen Golden State, KD's a hard man to stop. He's 7 foot tall, hit that fadeaway jumper, and it's hard to stop. I can see that series going 6 games. I don't know that it goes 7, but I still would pick the Warriors to win it. So
it really should be interesting.
I do think that both conference finals are fairly even teams, right? When you look at it, the question, as I said a minute ago, can Houston contain the Warriors' offense or keep up with it at least? That's the issue. You saw New Orleans; they kind of beat up on Golden State to win Game 3, but then after that they were unsuccessful. So, can the Rockets learn something from the Pelicans? But the other problem is you have to do it consistently. You have to do that for 4 games. And if you can't do it for 4 games to win the series, then the Warriors win easily. And that's the problem. Like, I do kind of see a Cavs-Warriors matchup, and I just don't think that'll be competitive.
No.
I know LeBron would be mad, but at the same time, like, we saw what they had issues with, last year, and they had Kyrie then. So, the other issue now for the Cavs is, can they keep up the pace and the play style that they'd been playing with against the Raptors? And I think they found that when they had a healthy George Hill, Kevin Love reemerged. But at the same time, they're going with more experienced players. But that may also work to their detriment in the Celtics series. So, it'll be interesting when these games start. Do you know off the top of your head, or I'll look it up here, when those games start?
What, the conference games?
The playoffs.
I think Saturday. I think the Western Conference is Saturday. I know it's Saturday, I think. Off the top of my head. I would say Saturday and Monday, I guess. Saturday, Sunday, if I had to guess.
All right, so it's Sunday, Monday.
Well, I was close. I'll take it.
I mean, yeah, the Sunday. So Cavs Celtics Sunday at 3:30. Monday at 9 is Warriors Rockets. Do you think it helps the Rockets' chances at all that they have home court advantage?
No, dude. The Warriors are freaking overpowered. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, dude. Like, no matter where you are, no matter how big you are, you just can't own up to Golden State's roster. You just can't. You got Steph, Clay, Kevin, DeAndre Jordan. What's his name? Green. What's his
Draymond?
Oh my gosh, I was thinking DeAndre Jordan for some reason. Draymond Green, and then what's the last one? Iguodala. I don't know how you can compare that bench to just Harden and CP3. Like, you just can't.
Well, I mean, Capella's a good player for them. Ariza plays well. Gordon comes off the bench. I think the Warriors' offense is going to be too explosive for the Rockets to be able to handle. But let's get to this one last thing. And it doesn't involve the NBA playoffs. It actually involves MLB at the moment. And it's the Fortnite craze. So, did you see that video of the Brewers players playing Fortnite on the Jumbotron?
No, I did not, but that sounds so much fun.
It does, but at the same time,
it's too much.
I feel like the Fortnite craze has gone too far.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
Because, there are people now speculating that David Price's video game playing is causing his carpal tunnel issue, and he said if he thought that was causing it, then he would stop, but he doesn't. So we see this, though, that these athletes are enamored with, especially Fortnite. Now, some are PUBG, but it's like, do you give them a break because that's kind of the relaxation time, or do you think, hey, you should be focusing more maybe on improving your game for some of these players?
If it's a rainy day and you got a break and it's your first time doing it, go ahead, play some Fortnite on the Jumbotron or Megatron, whatever, But if you're, of course, have the passion for baseball, wouldn't you want to get better? Wouldn't you want to be better and practice wherever it may be? No, let's just play some Fortnite with some shotguns and ARs and I
honestly think it might become an issue with like an obsession thing, like players may be too tired to come in, or get like a carpal tunnel syndrome because of all that movement of their hands on the controllers. So that could be an issue that comes down the road, and we won't know it till it happens. I just feel like with the athletes, it's not like I'm saying you can't play video games. I feel like it's just almost overgrown.
Yeah.
It's like that weed you don't cut down, and it just keeps growing and growing. And then eventually it's taking over everything.
Now, do you think that someone could shut down Epic Games, which, if y'all don't know, it is the creator of Fortnite?
No, nobody's going to shut that down.
No. But, I do agree with you. I play Fortnite myself, and even PUBG. I played on mobile, but I plan to get a PC later on in life. But anyways, I like Fortnite, and I think it's a fun game, but I am definitely not addicted to it. I buy the skins, and I am developed in the game. So if there's haters out there, I do play the game. I love the game, and I say I'm skillful at the game. I'm lying, but I just I'm not addicted to it. Every time I get on, I don't think about playing Fortnite as much. If my buddies are on, yeah, I probably will play Fortnite, because Fortnite by yourself is just not as fun. You don't really have anybody to communicate with, talk with, laugh with, anything like that. And playing with a team is a lot more fun than playing solo. But I do think it's growing a little bit too much. I think that there's so many memes and problems with Fortnite that it's just too much now.
I think it does. It's a fine line to walk between doing it maybe as relaxation or then more of an addiction. I think you're right. But when I saw the Jumbotron, I was like, really? We're playing on the Jumbotron now? Come on now.
That would be fun. Than a 12-inch, 45-inch screen TV, but still.
Well, I agree. It'd be better, than a 40-inch, 45, whatever you got, 50-inch TV. But it's just come on now. Seriously, we can't just not play it on the Jumbotron. I don't know. It just kind of struck a nerve with me.
Yeah, I can agree with you. As a younger guy, I like gaming and stuff like that. But I do think, I was actually thinking about this a couple days ago. Has Fortnite overgrown? And I don't know if it'll ever die down. Depending on, if they run out of weapons to come out with or things to come out with, that game will someday die. Question is when. But, people like Ninja, shout out to Ninja, people like Ninja, people look up to him and people watch him constantly. And it's sort of annoying because I'm like, don't y'all get tired of dropping down, grabbing weapons, going to this place, let's drop here, let's drop there. It is fun, but I don't know, it gets kind of boring after a while, there's really no way to explain it. I just don't find it as interesting as other people.
I think that actually is a good place for us to kind of stop with this. Obviously, when we come back next week, we'll be able to have the Eastern Conference Game 1 we'll be able to watch, and we'll be able to watch some of the Western Conference probably. But what I do want to say is that when you're talking about Draymond Green, that's actually a good correlation to what's going to happen in the second half because, as I said last episode, we were working on getting a guest in to do an interview, and I actually was able to get one, and it is Ryan Lemon, the co-host of Kentucky Sports Radio. He is also a former sports anchor in Lexington, in Evansville, Indiana, and then in Owensboro, Kentucky as well. But it is a fun conversation, and I think you'll enjoy it. But for Rylee and I, this is going to be kind of the end of our segment, and if you continue on listening, I think you'll really enjoy it. Ryan and I talk. It is a lot of Kentucky-centric, obviously, with him being in Lexington. So for us, you can go follow Rylee on Twitter at Rylee_RD Sports. That is RYLEE. And then you can follow me as well at Dish_RD Sports Report. You can go follow the podcast page on Facebook. If you just hit facebook.com/RD Sports Report. And then you can also do the same thing on Twitter. It's at RD Sports Report. But for Rylee and I, the last thing to say is to help this podcast, we'd be eternally grateful if you'd go rate and review us.
Always.
5 stars only, please. But Rylee, for you and I, we will call it a night. And up next is my interview with Ryan Lemon of Kentucky Sports Radio. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are joined by Ryan Lemon. He is the co-host of Kentucky Sports Radio. He's in Lexington, Kentucky. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, but the first thing I got to know, you got an 812 number. I'm from the 812. Where are you from?
I originally am from New Albany, so just right across the river. I listen to Kentucky Sports Radio all the time, so...
I grew up around Jasper and Washington and Santa Claus, Indiana, over on the other side of the state, but always representing the 812.
Oh, you got to. Actually, my mother grew up in Honeyburg, so
I know it's been there many, many times.
Yeah, her family is came from that way and came down here to New Albany, so I know exactly. I've got. My wife's family lives down in Evansville. She's got some family down there.
Yep.
And so, we get around here. So I figured you might get a kick out of the 812 area code there.
Yeah. So your mom's a Southridge Raider. See, that was a big rival to my high school, Pike Central. I'm a Pike Central Charger, so we were big rivals.
Oh, yeah?
Well, let me ask you this. I know this is way off topic. When did your mom graduate Southridge?
She actually graduated from New Albany. They moved down here,
okay.
I think, actually, when she was middle school, I think. So she graduated from New Albany High School.
Gotcha. Okay. I got you.
So, yeah, my aunt would have, I think she might have graduated probably from Southridge, but that would have been before, and she'd kill me if I told you what her age is. So.
Well, Evansville's where I started. I did my internship out of Kentucky Wesleyan College at Channel 7 in Evansville, and ended up working there for 4 years. And then I worked at Channel 14 in Evansville for a couple of years before I moved and took the job at the NBC affiliate Channel 18 in Lexington. So Evansville, that's my hometown team over there.
Well, and it's funny because I did go to school just for a little bit down there at USI, and then I ended up coming back home and finishing my degree. But so I've spent plenty of time down there in Evansville as well, and I laughed when I was looking up things of you starting there in Evansville. So
yep, that's where I got my first TV job in 1990. At Channel 7 in Evansville.
So let me ask you this. Because you are from the kind of southern Indiana area and all that, did you always grow up a Kentucky fan? or was there like pressure to be an IU fan? Because you would have been growing up during really that heyday of Bob Knight there at IU, right?
Oh yeah. There was no doubt. I was an Indiana fan. Every kid was an Indiana fan, and there was no other choice. But my story goes that there was a guy by the name of Kyle Macy, who was a white point guard who played for his dad, and that was going to be me. White point guard, played for my dad. My dad was a high school basketball coach there at Pike Central. Kyle Macy won Mr. Basketball. You know, hell, I'm 10 years old. That's my hero. All of a sudden, I knew I was going to be Kyle Macy. There was no doubt. But then Kyle Macy went to Purdue, of all places, out of high school. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. So I became a Purdue fan. But then the heavens opened up, and Kyle Macy transferred to Kentucky. And it was about that same time, all the Kentucky basketball games, or a lot of them, were on Channel 7 in Evansville. They showed the Kentucky games because they feed into the Owensboro, Henderson area in Kentucky. So I got to watch all the Kentucky games. I got to watch my hero Kyle Macy play, and then they won the national championship like 2 years later. So it was almost that was my perfect storm to becoming a Kentucky basketball fan. I tell Kyle Macy when I see him sometimes, I said, dude, thank you, because if you'd have stayed at Purdue, I'd have been a Purdue Boilermaker fan my whole life, and they don't do anything.
Well, and that's what I kind of wondered is if you became a Kentucky fan before moving to Lexington, or if your family, because like for me, my grandpa grew up in Eastern Kentucky. He grew up in Macon, Kentucky, there near Whitesburg. So, for me growing up, right, that was what was kind of...
That was your connection.
Right, and that was what's preached to us, because, he moved up here to Louisville and was working at GE, and so, that's how, I became a Kentucky fan, is through my family, so that's what I was wondering, because I know, a lot of my friends, they're IU fans, or they become, a U of L fan once Rick especially got there, so... That was kind of my one question there was how that, and I remember because my dad and I took my dad with my wife to the alumni game. We saw Kyle Macy and was able to see him play, so that kind of comes full circle for both of us there. So
yeah, but my first ever time I saw Kentucky play live, it's when they were playing Indiana up in Bloomington when Rex Chapman was playing, like in 88, I think maybe 87 or 1988. That's the first time I ever saw Kentucky play. It just happened to be in Bloomington when they were playing Indiana. But, I went to Kentucky Wesleyan, played baseball, so I kind of got my roots a little bit deeper. But I've been in Lexington now for 22 years. So even though I grew up in Indiana, I kind of feel like though I'm a Kentuckian. You know what I mean? I'm raising my family. My boys are all being raised in Kentucky. So I feel like even though my roots are in Indiana, I feel like I'm a Kentuckian.
And it's funny you say that, because I feel the exact same way. Like I feel like my heart lies more with Kentucky, and even though I live here in Indiana, proud to be a Hoosier living here in Indiana, but I feel like I fit more in there in Kentucky, and as my son grows older, that's how he's going to be raised. He's going to be raised to be a Kentucky fan. So,
well, I was the one rebel child who didn't like Indiana, and I've got one son, my youngest son. Every now and then, he even acts like he's a North Carolina fan, for crying out loud. He's got a North Carolina hoodie. He's got North Carolina shorts. So I think every family got that one kid that kind of goes against the norm and tries to rebel against the other brothers and sisters or family members.
Well, and because I have two older sisters, and we always joke with my oldest sister that she's kind of that rebel, because we all married U of L fans. Now my wife has since come over to the good side here, but
oh, good, you convinced her.
Yeah,
good.
I did, but my sister, my oldest sister, she'll go to U of L games, and so we always give her grief that she's the turncoat in the family. So. I guess as you said, there always has to be one there. So,
yep, there usually is one that's a little bit of a rebel.
But you talked about there, Ryan, playing baseball at Kentucky Wesleyan. Now, as you're playing there, I'm assuming, as most players are, the thought is to get to the major leagues, right, for you?
Oh, there was no doubt. When I was young, I was going to be a point guard and play for Bobby Knight, like when I was 6, 7 years old. But when I got to college, I mean, there's no doubt someday I was going to play, maybe not the big leagues, but I was going to play minor league baseball. I just knew it. And then once you get to your senior year, I think you finally mature and you realize, okay, maybe I'm dreaming a little too much. Maybe I need to think about getting a job and getting a career and making some money instead of trying to chasing some dream to be a ball player, because it ain't going to happen for some little center fielder who plays for Kentucky Wesleyan in Owensboro.
Well, and especially, at the time, and not to go too much with your age, but like now it's almost easier to find those players at the smaller schools with the social media and all that. You can almost blow a kid up at a smaller school, but
yeah.
it had to be harder for teams, even when you were playing and even before that, to find those at the smaller schools like a Kentucky Wesleyan.
I'm telling you, when you go to a UK baseball game now or a U of L baseball game, there may be 12 scouts there, maybe 20 if some kid's pitching that's really good. When I played, I remember seeing a scout at one of my games over a 4-year period twice. And one was when we played a team in Nashville, and another was when we played a team in Cincinnati. That was it. That's the only time, 2 games in 4 years, a scout was ever at one of our games. And now you get 12 or 15 a game, at Bakersfield. So you're right. It's harder. It's a lot harder to do. And that's just part of how God's plan for you is. I don't think God's plan for me was to be a baseball player. It was to talk for a living and have to put up with Matt Jones. I think that was my plan.
Well, and that in and of itself, listening to you all day after day, that can be a task in and of itself, just putting up with Matt. But
there's a guy in Lexington, I don't know if you heard of him, Alan Cutler is his name.
Yes,
he hosted KSR a couple of times. He's a pain in the you-know-what to work for. I mean, he is a major pain. But I worked with him for 12 years, so I feel like that kind of prepared me to work for another pain in the you-know-what in Matt Jones. So I think that's, again, all part of God's plan for me, kind of laid out.
Yeah, it was that preparation for you to do what you do now with Matt. So
That's right. That's right. I already had good groundwork was already laid.
Now, when you were at Kentucky Wesleyan, you ended up setting a couple records that do they still stand today?
Oh, yeah. They'll never be broken. Never be broken. It's going to be hard because my coach let me run all the time. I mean, I basically had the green light. Whenever I got on base, I could go just about any time I wanted. So I think I still have the stolen bases in a career, stolen bases in a season, stolen bases in a game. I know at one time I had like on-base percentage, but I think somebody broke that one. Runs scored, just kind of leadoff type numbers. I was never a power hitter by any means. I didn't drive in a lot of runs, but I could get on and move around and score some runs for you.
Well, and that's score some runs. That's like what my forte was when I played baseball younger, because I almost was afraid of the ball somewhat to really swing it. So when the big fat kid would get on, then I'd get called in to run for him because then it was almost a green light and they were watching me. So
yeah, you're right. Now, where did you play?
I started off playing shortstop, which also leads into my love of the Yankees because Jeter was so big at the time.
Oh yeah,
and then they kind of slid me over to third. I got moved to second, and I played outfield, but I never really enjoyed playing outfield. I always wanted to play, in the infield there. Third base I could handle, but I always loved shortstop. That was where I felt the most home. So,
did you play in high school?
No, I was going to, and some of me wishes I would have, but I knew I couldn't swing it well enough to probably play a whole bunch. So I was like, let's move on to something else. And it was like, okay, let's try to figure something else out here. So,
well, I was, like I said, I told you, my dad was a high school basketball coach, so I grew up going to the gym from the time I could walk. So, I played basketball, baseball, tennis. I ran track. I just did it all. I went to a little county school there in Indiana, so did it all. And I try to encourage my boys, it's some of the best times of your life. Just playing high school sports. There's, you're with your buddies and It's not like we got to wake up and go to a job that you hate to make money so your family has food on the table. Enjoy it. But kids these days are a little different, man. They don't see it that way. They'd rather ride around on their moped and play Fortnite every night.
And you know you talk about Fortnite, like, you know, I enjoy playing Fortnite. I'll play it, but it's not. I don't sit down and play it all the time. And you're right. Yeah, it's something different. They'll just play it all the time now, and it's like, I just can't handle doing that myself. I'd rather be outside. You give me a basketball and a hoop, and I'll spend 10 hours out there just shooting around. So,
my oldest son, he's 20 now, and he was a real good football player. He was a defensive lineman, and he was really good. And he played until his 8th grade year, and then he basically was like, "Dad, you know, I'm done." And it broke my heart. I mean, it killed me because I knew he had talent, and I knew he could play varsity football at Lafayette, where he ended up going to school, but he didn't want to, and he really kind of helped open my eyes a little bit and get out of my sports world and kind of, you know, look at things differently. And I told him that one time. I said, "You really helped me grow as a person because I'm so locked in on sports, and when I have a free time, I'm watching a game or I'm going to a game." But yet he's totally uninterested in sports. And so since he was my son, I wanted to do stuff with him, which kind of, like I said, opened up some new doors and things for me through him. Like tonight, you know, he's going to Five Finger Death Punch concert tonight at Rupp Arena, and he's got his costume planned from a week ago. He knew exactly what he was going to wear, how he was going to wear it, the boots and the shirts and the chains and the gloves, and it's just, you know, stuff that's not me, but I get a kick out of watching him get enjoyment out of it.
So the question is, with going to the Five Finger Death Punch concert, is he dressing to look like Chris Cale?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he met Chris when Chris was here about 2 years ago. Chris came to one of our remotes and was on the air with us, and my son came out there and got to meet Chris, and he's got a picture of the two of them on his wall in his room. Huge fan. So Chris hooked him up with some meet and greet passes, which is going on here pretty soon, and then the concert. So yeah, he's took the day off work. He's more jacked up about this than anything I've seen in a long time.
Well, and I imagine even for you, Ryan, that probably kind of helps bridge that gap, you know, with Chris Cale being a huge Kentucky fan, your son going to Five Finger Death Punch concert, like it helps to kind of bridge that gap for you with like the two of them coming together, and you can kind of, as you said, it opens your eyes to other things other than just sports.
It does, 100%, and that's why I really appreciate that about him. You know, he and I don't get to share father-sons going to a game or going to a Kentucky game, or father-son sitting around watching UK on TV or something. That's just something we don't do. But I want to do something with him, so I had to open up my doors to do what he wants to do. You know, he likes Dungeons and Dragons, you know, and stuff like that. And he likes going to Comic-Con and dressing up like some stormtrooper or whatever. You know, that's just who he is. So I had to kind of be willing to open myself up to that, to enjoy doing stuff with my son.
Now, since you've been down in Lexington, when did you got down to Lexington in what, 96?
96, January of 96, before they won it all, just like 2 months later.
So, what was that run like for you to go from January of 96, you know, those 3 straight championship games through 98, the 96, 97, 98. What's that like for you working as the sports reporter there?
It was without a doubt the highlight of my broadcasting career. Getting that job at Channel 18 at that time was just such a blessing for me. Because, you know, I'd been covering University of Evansville and USI and Kentucky Wesleyan over there in Evansville, and I come over here, and like you said, they win it all in 96. They get runner-up in the national championship game in 97. They win it all in 98. Oh, yeah, by the way, Tim Couch was here at that time and took Kentucky to the Outback Bowl. It was just a great time. Gavin, my son, was born in 98. It was definitely one of the highlights of my life was that stretch. That was the first job where I was the main sports anchor. All my other previous jobs in Evansville, I was the weekend sports guy. Well, that's when I was the main sports guy, and I got to be at the forefront of all this and travel around the country with Kentucky. It was truly amazing, and I know it doesn't happen all the time. So I'm very blessed and thankful that I was there when it did happen.
Well, and I can only imagine going through that, because really the 98 team is kind of really some of my earlier memories. I was born in 91, so I was 7 years old, but it's kind of when it like all kind of clicks in your mind. Like, I remember the 96 team, but that 98 team is almost the special one to me. I'll
be honest with you. That's my favorite UK team. I mean, I know the 96 team was better, and I know the John Wall team was better, and I know the Karl Anthony Towns 38-1 team was better. But that 98 team, that was my favorite team, because nobody expected that run they went on. You know, it came out of nowhere. And Allen Edwards' mom dies during the SEC tournament, and Jeff Shepherd gets hurt during the SEC tournament. And still, they went on this run, and it was such a team effort. Each game, they'd have a different guy be a leading scorer. So I can see why you still remember fondly about that team, because that's my favorite UK team I've ever covered.
Well, and even as we said here, I have a signed little small basketball with it. It's got Allen Edwards, Cameron Mills, Jeff Shepherd, and Nazi Muhammad, which to me is always amazing how long he played in the NBA.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Because, you know, it just amazed me of all that group, he, you know, played the longest there. And, you know, up until just a few years ago, he was still just riding the bench, getting a paycheck for, you know, the Spurs and that. So
nobody could have ever predicted that for Nazi. Nobody, that he would spend whatever it's been, 16 years he spent in the NBA. That's crazy.
Well, and you know, he spent so much time there, and like, one of my favorite players originally growing up was Jamal McGlure, because of the attitude he played with, and like, you know, he outlasted him, and it is just amazing, because even those last few years with the Spurs, he was still getting time on the court. It wasn't like he was just in garbage time. Yeah.
He's a great trivia question answer. Who's the only former Kentucky Wildcat to be MVP of an All-Star game, of an NBA All-Star game? And it's him. You know, well, unless Anthony Davis just got it. Did Anthony Davis just get it this year?
He won it last year. He won the NBA MVP. Yeah, All-Star.
So that's it. Jamal McGlure and Anthony Davis are the only two.
Well, and those are the crazy things. But, you know, like, I have a little bit of a memory of Rick there at Kentucky, but as we were just talking, like, my memories are more Tubby. Being there. And, you know, I remember sitting in class a couple times, and my math teacher, he'd go up and he'd talk to the different posters. He's like, "What's that, Tubby? We're gonna get number 8 this year," and he, you know, continued on. But
Tubby was one of the best guys I've ever worked with. I mean, I only worked with Pitino for a year and a half, but he was that guy where you had to go through this guy, to go through that guy, to go through that guy, just to get to talk to Rick. Tubby's the type of guy, he would come up to you and say, "Hey, Ryan, you need to talk to me? You know, and ask me about my kids." And just, I can't say enough great things about Tubby as a person. He was obviously a great coach and did some great things, but just as a person, he was a great man to be around.
Well, and that's what he always seemed like, that quiet guy, but you knew what he wanted, because he'd always, I remember, we'd call it the Tubby stare. He'd just be so mad at somebody. Yeah. He wouldn't yell at him. He'd just look at you. And he'd just look at that player.
Ultra competitive. That's right. He was so competitive, man. He could just stare at you and you'd just pee your pants and scare you so bad.
Well, and that's the thing, is it was like, because, you know, growing up, he was like, "Really, Tubby, what's that going to do, just staring at somebody?" But, you know, as I get older, like, I understand it more now. Like, it clicks more now of, he didn't need to say anything.
Yeah. Well, it'll be in the very, very near future, I believe, that UK will invite Tubby and High Point to come in and play, and they'll have a ceremony, and they'll retire Tubby's name up to the rafters up there by Pitino and Joe B. Hall and Rupp, because he deserves it. You know, I think enough time has passed and hard feelings have gone away, and, you know, he's in the twilight of his coaching career, so it'll happen, and it'll be a wonderful night, and I'll get goosebumps when they applaud for him, because he definitely deserves it.
Well, and I was one of those people for the longest time that said, "Oh, well, Tubby really only won it because those were all Rick's players there in '98. But then once you hear people like a Cameron Mills speak about it, you understand that they might have been there when Rick was there, but that was Tubby's team. That's how they played.
Oh, yeah.
It was Tubby's doing getting that championship.
And it's best when you hear those players talk about it. When you hear Cameron or Jeff Shepard or somebody talk about it, that Tubby basically completely changed how they played. I mean, yeah, Rick recruited those kids, but Tubby coached them, and Tubby put in a system that enabled them to be successful that year. And he was so close to going back to the Final Four. Keith Bogan's senior year, when Bogan sprained his ankle and playing against Dwayne Wade and Marquette. And then the 05 year when they played Michigan State down in Austin, Texas, and Patrick Sparks hit that shot that bounced and bounced and bounced and bounced and finally went in. I mean, those were two games where Tubby was so close to going back to the Final Four. I think he needed one more, and his legacy would be so much different here at Kentucky.
Oh, it completely would, because you talked about that Dwayne Wade Marquette game. I can pretty much vividly remember sitting at a Golden Corral eating dinner, realizing that the game's going on and I want to be watching the game. Now, this, obviously before I could watch it on my cell phone, but
yeah,
then to find out that they lose to Marquette, I was like, really, you lose to Marquette? At the time, not knowing Dwayne Wade is on that Marquette team, so
yeah, on the way, his legacy being stamped as a superstar.
Right, exactly, and it's just like it is amazing how all that works together, and I agree. Yeah, I think Tubby needed just that one more to really cement his legacy, because I think the problem for Tubby is so many people remember the last years of Tubby.
Yeah, and here's another thing that changed Tubby's legacy here. He was so close to getting Tyler Hansborough. I mean, he really thought Tyler Hansborough was going to play at Kentucky, and he put all of his eggs in the Tyler Hansborough basket, and then he didn't get him. So that recruiting class ended up being like, that may have been the one that had Jared Carter and Adam Williams and whoever else. And then the next year, Brandon Wright, he thought he had him. He put all the eggs in the Brandon Wright basket, and he didn't get him. But I think that's the year he ended up with maybe Bobby Perry and Sheree Thomas and Wukosh and Shagari Aline. He missed out on those two guys that could have changed everything. If those two guys were here for their college careers.
Well, what was he in? And I may be wrong. Wasn't he in almost on Draymond Green as well?
Oh, Draymond Green was coming. That's another one. Draymond Green was coming to Kentucky until Tubby left to take the Minnesota job, and so obviously Gillespie couldn't pull it off, but Gillespie was able still to convince Patrick Patterson. Can you imagine? Tubby almost had Draymond Green and Patrick Patterson in the same recruiting class. I may be off by a year, but I think they were both in the same class.
Well, and that's the crazy thing, because I was talking to Rylee, who does the front end of the podcast with me, that that Draymond almost was coming to Kentucky, that they almost had him. Instead, he goes to Michigan State, and just you think of the talent that Kentucky's got now in the NBA, and on top of that, you would add Draymond Green to it.
Yep.
And it's just almost mind blowing there that you could have had him too.
I know it. Just think about that. How things would have been different for Tubby. He almost got Chris Duhon, but Chris Duhon decided, well, you've got your son Saul there playing point guard. I'm never going to play because you're going to play your son. So Chris Duhon went to Duke, and won a title over there. There were a lot of unfortunate. Oh, here's another one. He had a 7-foot kid from Indiana, Jonathan Stewart, who died during the regional tournament.
Right.
Played for Indianapolis Cathedral, I think it was, and he had committed to Kentucky. And during his senior year of I think it was the regional, may have been the semi-state, but I think it was the regional, had a heart attack and died during the game. There's another guy that Tubby could have had here.
Well, and that's what it almost seems like, because those last few years of Tubby, right, where they weren't those stud players that you kind of had seen coming in, and it was one of those. It was just like, okay, this isn't quite the Kentucky teams that you feel should be there, and you saw the writing on the wall. But as you talk, it gives me goosebumps how close they were for so many players. That Tubby thought he had, and Chris Duhon going because Saul Smith was going to be playing there. So it's it's one of those things. It's like Coach Cal doesn't really have that issue because nobody's really going to think Brad's going to take their starting job.
Right. But Saul was going to play and play a lot, and so Chris Duhon was one of a couple point guards that decided to scratch Kentucky because of that. So you're right. You just what we just mentioned here in the last 5-10 minutes. Tubby's legacy could be, we'd have a statue for him down at Rupp Arena.
Well, and his name would already be flying in the rafters. Like it, there would have been no doubt about that. So, with all those players, you almost think he would have gotten that second title for him.
Yep, I totally agree. So, but there's a time coming. They're going to get to honor him, and it'll be a great day, and I can't wait to be a part of it and see it.
I hope so, because looking back now, like Tubby is kind of that quiet guy, and I tell you who he almost reminds me of like a Tony Dungy type coach, because Tony Dungy didn't really yell a whole lot. You always just saw him looking, and he was so calm, and I've read his book and talking about going through everything, and
I lost you there for a second. Are you there?
Oh yeah, you still there?
Oh yeah, I heard you talking about Tony Dungy, and then I didn't hear anything for a while.
It must have dropped out there for a second. But I've read Tony Dungy's book and all that, and it's just he talks about that it's not always just about yelling, which you see a lot of coaches do. You watch Coach Cal work that sideline, and he's yelling almost nonstop sometimes, but
but he's coaching at the same. I keep telling people, but he's coaching while he's yelling. He's not just berating the player and dressing them down. He's trying to coach them and improve them so they don't make that mistake, or they'll do something different next time.
Well, and I think for some of it even goes back to, I've heard Matt tell the story before of James Young forgetting the play. You forget sometimes how young these players are that are playing for him.
Yeah.
It's not these
18, 19, 20-year-old kids. I mean, they're kids still that play Fortnite as soon as practice is over every day.
Right. It's not like, Steve Kerr sitting on the Warriors bench. I saw him, the other night. He's got his arms back, legs crossed. He's just chilling. That's what Cal doesn't have, that luxury, but I think he wouldn't have it any other way.
True. I totally agree with you. That's what he loves. That's his passion, and that's why he's still in the college game doing what he does.
All right, Ryan, I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know you said you had just a little bit of time here. I do thank you for doing this. People can reach you on Twitter. They can follow you. It's at Ryan Lemon.
Correct. Yeah, and there's a D on the end of my name, Lemond. My grandpa over there in Otwell, Indiana, thought Lemond sounded too fancy. So he just made it Lemond, and that's why half my family's Lemond, and half of them go by Lemond.
Well, and the first time my mother had seen your last name, she thought it was Lemond, and I was like, no, it's Lemon.
Yeah. Yep.
She was like, oh,
yeah. Well, she probably knew some Lemonds over there in Huntingburg.
Right.
Like I said, my family's kind of split up.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's actually, now that you say that, she had said, she knew some people with the D on the end of it, that it was Lemond. So
yeah. Well, impress your mom and tell her that you want her to take you to the chicken place in Ireland, Indiana.
Okay.
Best chicken in the world is in Ireland, Indiana.
Yeah, because we met. It's been quite a bit, but the German restaurant there in Jasper,
Schnitzelbach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Ryan, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and
sure, man, I enjoyed it. I appreciate it. Call me anytime.
All right, and we'll have to maybe toward football season we'll have to get back together and look at the outlook here on the Kentucky football season, because I look for him to maybe be able to do something special this year, even with the schedule. So.
Well, I appreciate it. I enjoyed it as well, and good luck to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. We'll talk to you later, bud.
All right. See ya.
Bye.